All right, truth seekers. This is Friday, and Friday, y'all know we have great conversations. And I got my brother here with me, Brother Rashad Muhammad, here from the Nation of Islam, and the author of the book UFOs and the Nation of Islam. Now, this is a conversation that I think all of us should be having, and it's a great conversation. And brother, first and foremost, thank you for being here. You could have been any other place today, but you chose to be right here, right now, and I appreciate you for that. Now,
Oh, brother,
okay,
it's
so
an honor.
so let me set the tone because we're gonna have a conversation. Okay, the first thing I want to do is all of us, especially as truth seekers, and you all been watching my channel, understanding us, the UFO world, and what we're doing. Then I think at this point, with disclosure happening, and the government and all these people saying, "Hey, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth," and they start doing a light disclosure. But one of the things that stands out to me, and then of course, Brother Rashad here is going to he's going to stamp it in for me here, and is my question: why did they start it in 1947? Even now that they want to do the movie, and it's like, okay, the Roswell incidents, when we should be knowing that somewhere else there was a brother who was already talking about this stuff, telling us about these UFOs. He was already putting stuff out. We're talking in the 30s, by the way, and correct me in a minute, brother, if I'm wrong. But at the same time, so I got a lot of questions. I got a bombshell question I'm gonna ask my brother to kind of, just see what his thoughts is about this. Because I was doing some studying last night in these hundreds of pages right here, and I found this document. And so I'm gonna read this to him just to see his perspective. So, brother, first and foremost, how you doing?
Doing well, brother Roderick, man. Certainly good to see you again after meeting you just a few weeks ago in person.
Yep.
And just honored and just happy to be on your show, man. I know you come with some deep stuff, so I hope I'm in good company, and I think I am, man. So I'm just happy
Well,
to be.
you in great company because it's not even that you're coming to validate and confirm the suspicions that a lot of people, and also give us a little deeper truth that I think is some truth there. I really do. And that comes down to what we all talking about, this UFO stuff. So what I'm going to do right now, I did some little notes of myself. And of course, we're talking about I'm surrounded around the mother plane or the mother wheel, or, from the story. So I have a note here that Elijah Muhammad, the great Elijah Muhammad, was taught by a W.D. Fard Muhammad, right? Am I
That's the
correct
Father
on that?
Muhammad, yes.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
take us back to those two and meeting each other, and just give us a little history of that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the very root of the Nation of Islam and the very thing that distinguishes the Nation of Islam from pretty much everyone, from every other religion, every other school of thought, be it academic, even other political ideologies. What distinguishes the nation is the fact that we recognize that Elijah Muhammad literally met God in person in the early 1930s. The man that you mentioned, W.D. Fard, or Master Fard Muhammad, as he is better known, was the man that came from Mecca and came to North America on July 4th, 1930. He had been in and out of America for 20 years prior, but he came and started teaching July 4th, 1930. That's 96 years ago. And shortly thereafter, as he's teaching Black people, going door to door, he meets Elijah Muhammad September 22nd, 1931. And shortly thereafter, he literally shows his student, Elijah Muhammad, the reality of this huge wheel-shaped aircraft that he summoned and pointed out to Elijah Muhammad, and gave him the specific details about it, along with its 1,500 accompanying smaller wheel-like planes. And this is in the early 30s. This is largely what distinguishes the nation from everybody. And because there were no major sightings and no real major concerns from a governmental perspective, at that time, even from a military perspective, there were no major sightings and concerns at that time. The Nation of Islam had been mocked and ridiculed.
Yep.
It's a voodoo cult because of these type of strange teachings. And in the police reports and even in the early newspapers, there were confrontations with the early Muslims in the Nation of Islam, with the local authorities, the Detroit police, and there were fights that ensued. And they were wondering, what is it that makes these Black people during the Jim Crow era, mind you, what is it that makes these Black Muslims so, as they wrote in some of their writings, superior, or thinking that they are superior? And they traced it to the strange teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Part of that teaching involves the reality of this huge wheel-shaped plane that he pointed out that he's responsible for, and that he taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and even the early Nation of Islam about publicly. So that is, to put it in a nutshell, and I know there wasn't a nutshell, because what was that, 3-4 minutes?
No, listen. You know, there's a lot. Like I said, we're going to go really deep into the conversation. Like I said, I did a lot of timelines and in my own stuff that I have here from the stories and everything else. Now, I'm just going to go right to what you were just saying about Elijah Muhammad saying, was Elijah Muhammad who said he met God, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so here's something that I'm gonna throw this out here just like right now, because I was gonna wait and do this later into the show. So I'm doing some research the other day, and I do a lot of studying. And just today, just so happens before the show, first let me give a setup question, and it's kind of a detour a little bit. What was the reasoning, and when did the notion to not eat the swine was introduced to the nation? Because I have something I want to throw on that I think is really good. So, but when did that come up into the teaching?
Well, that's always been a part since the establishment of the Nation of Islam in 1930. Of course, that's
I'm glad
been
you said that.
Of,
keep going. Okay.
That's been a part of Islam before the coming of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, and it's been a part of even the Judaic dietary laws, where the swine and things like that have been totally shunned, not only to be consumed, but in many respects are refrained from even touching its carcass.
Okay, and here's why I'm going with this, and I'm just throwing this out here. So I'm doing research because I do a lot of studying on the reptilians. Now, I kind of got your viewpoint from when we was at the mosque the other day when we met. But anyway, I'm going through this historic stuff on the evolution of the reptilians and the alien invasions and how they have intertwined the DNA of humans. So I started reading something, and I was going through the notes last night and just today about 3 o'clock. I was like, what? And they start talking about this term blue bloods. And blue bloods was because the reptilian people or human DNA have a little more copper in their blood, and so when it bleeds, it kind of turns blue. But anyway, it was all based upon 50-50, half human, half reptilian, and the fact that they will shapeshift because of the 50-50 DNA. But when they started to find out that more human DNA was going to it, and they wasn't able to shapeshift, then they start interbreeding with each other, which we have the incest now we talk about with the Illuminatis. Well, anyway, it went back that they start trying to figure out a way, and here, follow me with this, and I'm just reading this. And if they said that they started figuring out how they can introduce human DNA so that these half human reptilians could disguise themselves of eating this stuff, and they mixed it with the wild boar, which was the domesticated pig. Okay, it's saying this in the documentations of the history of this reptilian stuff, and it's saying that, of course, it was considered. Now they had a combination of human genetics as well as this, and of course they call it a form of cannibalism, eating that pig. And they said the Hebrews, and of course now we get into the nation, and they were just saying how pigs can use pig skin for burn cases, have hearts, all of this stuff that they use in pigs. And I wonder, it just hit me. I was like, I wonder that the Elijah Muhammad knew, because this is something they didn't want to put out back then. So the first thing he said, do not eat this swine, because they're saying that they had already known that the pig, domesticated pig, was already mixed with human DNA so that they can camouflage to eat this stuff. And I wonder if he just knew that too. And like, soon as we get started, we are not eating the pig. Now, because of the nature of him having this knowledge, he couldn't just come out and say there's lizard people walking around here. If he already knew about spaceships, you get what I'm saying? And I just threw that out there. And I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, the reasoning,
and I'll send it to you too. So I'll send it to you so
Please.
you can read it yourself. Yeah.
Please. The main reasoning behind us not eating the swine, and I think I can speak for all Muslims and most Jews and non-religious people that don't eat the swine, is because it is gross. It is unclean, and it was never made for human consumption. It is like a mixture of the cat, the rat, and the dog. It's like a natural garbage disposal for the earth. It practically eats anything. And as a result, it is inherently and innately poisonous and not made for human consumption. So that's more along the lines of reasoning why we don't eat the hog. And it's not just the hog, there are other things, as there are bottom feeders and scavengers of the land, like the hog and other animals. There are scavengers and garbage disposals of the air, vultures and buzzards. And there are those in the sea, catfish and shrimp and crustacean, and those bottom feeders that are like natural garbage disposals. And they have a divine purpose. That purpose just is not necessarily human consumption. So that's more along the lines of reasoning behind us refraining from the hog.
Well, I go with that. I just thought, it just hit me that
it's interesting though. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're saying it right here, and I'm like, and I would just put myself, and of course I can't. There's no comparison of his thought, but since he knew even UFO stuff was already treated like it was some whatever, and it's like, well, and then everybody know that the hidden stuff need to be kind of kept down, and it's like, you know what, we just not gonna eat it. Well, we know it's unclean, but it's also got human DNA built in this domesticated animal because they're using it for cannibal. We can't do it. That's just not. We're not doing it. Period. So I was just like, and just finding this information. Like I said, I'll send it to you. You'll find it interesting to read, and it just, to me, it just stacks up on top of being unclean purely, right? And so we just go there. So 1932. Or take us back to when he was arrested and what they found on him.
Okay, so he meets Master Farrakhan Muhammad in the early 30s, and that started a type of relationship where for pretty much night and day for nearly 3.5 years, Master Farrakhan Muhammad was teaching the Honorable Elijah Muhammad these things and other scientific realities that he revealed to his servant and messenger, Elijah Muhammad, most of which, or pretty much all of which, has later come to be realized that it is scientifically true, not just the reality of these wheel-like planes, but other things he taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like the origin of the moon, the origin of the races of the human family, and all of these things that scientists decades later have only confirmed what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was given from this man that he said was God in person, the supreme being. So that's in the early 1930s. Then about 10 years later, or a decade or so later, in 1942, that very now popular episode took place in what is known as the Battle over Los Angeles, where the U.S. Armed Forces is said to have encountered, and what is said to be the first major encounter between the U.S. Armed Forces and these so-called UFOs. And that took place over just off the coast of Los Angeles on February 25th, 1942, where the military fired over 1,400 rounds of anti-aircraft artillery at these unknown objects in the sky, a large circular object and some couple of smaller objects. And with all the artillery that was fired at these crafts, it didn't do anything, as if to show that they are clearly superior than anything that this military can think of. And naturally, that struck alarm within the government and the military to find out exactly what the hell were these crafts, these anomalous objects that we couldn't shoot down. What the hell was that? So the government and military intelligence went on an all-out investigation to see if this could have been a foreign adversary, Japan or Germany, Russia, anybody. And their investigations actually led to the only ones on historical record for talking about the exact type of planes that they had encountered over Los Angeles, which is why the US government, the FBI, under the direction of then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, led to the arrest of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was arrested on May 8th, 1942. That's like 2.5 months after the Battle of LA. He was arrested in DC. And when the FBI, this is the most powerful government in the world, really. And when the FBI arrested him and interrogated him, they interrogated him about his knowledge of these planes that they had just encountered. Yep. And he was very boldly told them, you know, exactly what those planes are, who's responsible for it, which is Master Fard Muhammad. And they also questioned him on the whereabouts of Master Fard Muhammad. So they were questioning him about these wheels, and subsequently they literally locked him up to get him off of the streets because they did not want him teaching this kind of truth, this kind of Islam to our people in the 30s or 1940s. So he was locked up for about 5 years just for telling the truth. And it was during that time that the US government was able to kind of stir up their disinformation campaign about both UFOs and the early Nation of Islam. So it was in the late 40s and early 50s when most of the UFO propaganda started to take place. Most of those flying saucer movies really flooded the market in the 50s. They called it a watershed decade of UFO movies in the 1950s. And most of these movies were aimed to misinform the people and sway them away from the actual source of this phenomena that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had shown previously. But it was to direct attention away from the source of this phenomena, from the God behind this phenomena, but then to promote some fictitious aliens that in some cases even demonize the occupants behind these UFOs, as they call them.
Okay, so my question, and I'm going to come back to what you said, fictitious aliens. So, because that's definitely a conversation that I want to add to us. Now, yes, there have been a rumor that I've heard, and of course, people in my group that, and maybe you can confirm it, or, you know, that when Elijah Muhammad was arrested, supposedly he had blueprints of some type of craft. Is that true or false?
He had illustrations and drawings of the wheel. Remember, this was a common part of the Nation of Islam's teachings in the 30s and 40s, where we would have a blackboard in our temples and mosques, as they were called, temples mostly at that time. And on these blackboards, there would often be illustrations, both in, he would have documented illustrations, but he would draw illustrations of the wheel. Master Fard Muhammad would draw illustrations of the wheel on the blackboard in the 30s. So when they arrested him, they not only questioned him about these crafts, but they confiscated his drawings and illustrations, the blackboard that he had that was in the temple at the time. They took it to the FBI office. The other paperwork and documents concerning these planes, they confiscated that. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that they have it there today. He talks about it when he shares what they questioned him about when they arrested him and how they took and confiscated these illustrations. And really, that could be considered the origin of the official UFO cover-up, when they arrested and incarcerated the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to silence this truth from the public.
Okay, so another thing that, and I'm just tying in, and it's almost for me, you and I having this conversation is the collision of two worlds for me. Okay, and it's like bringing in some knowledge and fitting a puzzle. There was a book I read called The Theoba Prophecy, and it was redone by Samuel Chen, who is a Chinese consulate, and he's been on my show a few times, and we've talked in private. Now, in this book, and even Samuel Chen has admitted that even the Chinese government, allegedly, I mean, so he doesn't get in any trouble because they're pretty stickler, but he talks about how that the first people that were here on this planet was uh, black descendants and Chinese. And then even I found documents that in Roswell, even though we thought they were little gray aliens, that the original documents show that they were kind of dark Chinese looking beings, okay, but they were black or brown. I'm gonna use that word, or not brown, but just kind of a. Now, reason I brought this up is because if that is the case, that we were some of the two races that was imported here on Earth, and when I go back to Elijah Muhammad, or not Elijah Muhammad, but W.D. Farr Muhammad, his thing was that the mother wheel was built in Japan by our Asian brothers. So could that still be a connection from the beginning of what I've read to the relationship now that we're hearing about the mother wheel?
I do believe there is a connection.
Okay.
For the Master Farrakhan Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, well, the Nation of Islam teach that the black man is the original man. You know,
Okay.
there's none. All of humanity stems from the black man. And
Okay.
even we have different races today. We had, even before the Caucasian was derived and on our planet, we had, as you could say, different races of black people. You know, all black people didn't look the same on this planet. But you make the point that the black man not only is the original man, but is really the God of this universe, the original people that all humanity and things come forth from. Now, it may not be the exact same condition of the black man we see today, but the
Right.
black people are the original people nonetheless. And that is scientifically confirmed. And any anthropologist, any geneticist will validate that. And that's one of the many things that Master Farrakhan Muhammad revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even though it was scientifically known in certain circles,
Okay.
but none were openly admitting it in public, that all people stem from the black man and woman. You know, it was the Nation of Islam that popularized the notion that all people stem from us. And now it is commonplace to read through anthropology or genetics that this is true.
It's interesting because, and like I said, we're going to get to a couple other things about what you're saying. So let's go back to, I know you can't answer for the entire Nation of Islam, but what are the sentiment now? Now that we got disclosure coming out, and basically you all are just left out of it. You was once considered this crazy cult following of believing in motherships, but now they're trying to, now they're confirming, oh, it's some truth, but they don't go back and validate something that the Nation of Islam has been talking about 15, 20 years earlier. and teaching on it, growing on it. And so how do y'all feel? What's the sentiment? Now you can tell me your personal sentiment, and I can understand that from you being the author of this book, right? But
Mhm.
what would the others and just kind of give me a global consensus, if that's possible.
In some respects, I can speak for the Nation of Islam in the
Okay.
sense that we know that this government does lie, and you don't have to be in the nation. Hell, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that.
Right, right.
And we know that they lie, and we know that they're very full of tricks and tactics with their lies. And part of what we are really all suspicious of with these alleged disclosure efforts on the part of the government is that, first of all, you are not the authority to disclose what we already proved in the first damn place. So,
Okay.
that would be like expecting the government to tell you about the Nation of Islam as if they are the authorities on the
Yeah.
Nation of Islam. I mean, what the hell? So we don't look to them as the authority. Now, the only thing that they have are the instruments that record. They have the satellites, they have the radar technology, they have the telescopic monitors that can monitor what's taking place in the heavens, but they only have the tools and instruments to prove what the Nation of Islam has been saying in the first place. So they are not the authority on disclosure in the first place. So let's make that clear. Moreover, we have to be suspicious as thinking people as to why would the government, after all these years and decades of outright lying about UFOs, what would make us think that they are truly sincere in disclosing the truth about these so-called, as they call it, UAP, anomalous phenomena now? And part of what that represents is a common governmental intelligence tactic known as a limited hangout. A limited hangout is an intelligence operation where the government, and normally working with media, will disclose a certain portion, a limited portion of a subject, in this case, UFOs. But their purpose for disclosing the little truth that they have is really to misdirect the public away from the larger truth concerning this topic. And that larger, more important truth is the fact that Elijah Muhammad was right about the fact that he had met the supreme being who was responsible for these planes that you see. And he gave us all the details about what they can do, who occupies them, where they were made, what they're made for, what they're made out of, and all of that. So it would be, if they are truly disclosing the truth about these planes, then hell, we should have been the first damn people you called to the witness stand. So the fact that they are totally castigating the Nation of Islam from even discussions, not just on a governmental level, but even on an academic level, in mass media. I mean, look at you, dear brother. You are a brilliant UFO investigator. And as an investigator of these things, and a brilliant one at that, you can attest to how the nation has been pushed away even from public conversations about this thing. Now, you're a brilliant dude, and there were some things that you were like, but damn, I didn't know that, when we first met.
When we met, yeah.
And it's not your fault. That's just a testament to how adamant the government and their intelligence is to disinform the public about these and to make sure that the Nation of Islam, and we remember now, we boast on telling the world that we know the truth about these so-called UFOs. Yeah, we the one that presented it to the modern world. So to exclude the Nation of Islam from the UFO discussion would be like excluding us from discussions about the history of the bean pie.
And you know what? I had my first bean pie that Saturday.
It was good.
It was good. It was good.
Very good.
They were very good. In fact, she was selling them, in the little man. I was like, "This is a bean pie." All right, so
Man,
they
yeah.
were really good. Um, I was just having a discussion with Brother Joseph today, and I brought up to him exactly where you just went, and he was like, "Brother, you've been." He said, "You're right on time for the UFO stuff." I said, "No, no, no, no. Something else is wrong with that." I said because this thing has been hidden for all these years. Now they come, and I said it's like they're desensitizing the public so they can whip in something else to be unseen. Because as long as they get people used to it, they're not going to do it. I said we got to go now going deeper and revealing a lot of these real simple, subtle things that they're doing, because if they can get everybody just like, just flipping through their phones, UFO, they gonna sneak in that false, flag, all the stuff that they've been trying to
Oh
do
yeah.
all this time, blue beam and all these things, and having said that, let us go into two things here. One in particular, you already just brought it up as far as the ships themselves. Now I'm going to just dive into me being a UFO investigator as well as me believing that there are beings from other places. Now, from my understanding, when we met Saturday in your conversations, the alien thing or extraterrestrials is not something the nation subscribes to, correct?
Well, we bear witness and certainly believe that there is life on just about all of the planets, especially in
Okay.
our solar system. However, we don't subscribe to the notion that these planes, these wheel-shaped planes that have made up the bulk of the UFO phenomena, are
Okay.
the result of extraterrestrial or alien uh,
Okay.
occupants. Even though we believe, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, that Master Farrakhan Muhammad, who is the author of these crafts, would produce new life and new life forms. And he taught that at a certain time that some of these life forms would be used to terrorize the enemy, where they would look like, have like the body of an insect and the face of a human or something similar like that. So they would be very terrifying beings that Allah in person would have developed, uh, partly for the specific reason of terrifying this enemy during the judgment. So that is a part of our uh, belief system, if you will. But the origin of these crafts we recognize are from this earth, and they were built and are piloted by human beings, even though these human beings are not like your average human being that we see every day. They look like your average human being, but these are scientists, people who've been taught at a very early age under the tutelage of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. And these scientists, human beings, are really what the scriptures and prophecies refer to as angels. We don't believe that angels are those cupid beings that we see on television. We believe that angels are human beings, but they are human beings of extraordinary intelligence and powers because they've been given certain responsibilities. Some of those responsibilities involve controlling aspects of the weather. There are some that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew personally, these angels or scientists who would have a certain job to do at a certain time. He even talked about one or two of them that he met that visited him at his home, actually, that have a certain power over the sun and how the sun affects earth. So this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, that these human beings are responsible for those crafts and that those crafts are from earth. And we believe that there is alien life, there is extraterrestrial life. We just don't recognize that they are the authors behind these crafts that we see that make up the bulk of the UFO phenomena.
Okay. Yeah, and I get it. Like I said, it all goes down from, like you said, the belief. And so that takes me to one of my questions. And actually, when you were speaking, we had a couple of people who was with, we brought our team out there to hear you speak. And then once again, it was a eloquent presentation, outstanding job that you did. And just kudos to that. And like I said, about your
Honored by
book.
your presence and the presence
Yeah.
of your staff too. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and bought your book. Now, but I did write down, I was sitting a note, you were talking. This is before you even said it. So I'm writing down, and the young lady that was sitting next to me, so I give her my phone and I said, whoa. I said, on my notes on the screen, I said, boy, they don't believe in reptilians. And then next thing, about 5 minutes later, you said, oh, that reptilian crap, blah, blah, blah. And I'm laughing. And I said, I just told you, because I could just tell from the conversation. So what are y'all thoughts against the reptilians and why? Because I have like 30 books, the genetics, then the human DNA, and of course, us having a reptilian brain and just all of this stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's like you was like, hey, well, the reptilians, that's just not happening. So we'll go ahead. Maybe you can clarify, because that's what I perceive. So yeah.
And you're pretty much on it. You're pretty much on it.
Okay.
And as I stated earlier, we recognize that the black man is the original man, the god of the planet Earth, cream of the planet Earth, yeah. And that all life stems from this god. And so we don't necessarily subscribe to the reptilian theory. We are, I would say, realists, not to sound in any way condescending by no means.
But what about hybrid, though? Even though we're the original, and it does say that the reptilian invasion came and then altered men's DNA, because we'll get next into the infamous Anunnaki story, because I want to hear your opinion on that, the whole thing. But yes, it goes back to that, yeah, we were here, and then they came at some point, altered the DNA. Same story the Anunnaki used, the same story that all of these species are part humans and everything else. So could that still be fallible, that it happened, even though we are original, but at some point someone altered the DNA, and could be some human reptilian people?
We don't necessarily see where or how others have incorporated their DNA in that sense, because our DNA has certainly been altered through chemically altered, through other things like that. But in terms of say like extraterrestrials mixing their blood with us, we are germane to this earth, just as other extraterrestrial life are germane and for the most part relegated to live on their planet. They're suitable for their vegetation, their water, their atmosphere. So this is why as humans, we can go to other planets possibly, but we would require some type of contraption, some type of suit. Even if we go to the moon, it's only 300 some odd thousand miles away. If we were to go to Mars, and so it is with the any other life, that is not germane to this earth. So it becomes difficult for us to, subscribe to that in that particular manner, because, if we are the first of all of that, and all other life stems from us, so, and besides, I ain't never seen no reptilian,
well, you know what, it's some of the research, and like I said, we're just having a conversation, and and one of the things was when I first started going deeper into the serpent motif or mythology, and then I started noticing, except for the Nation of Islam, but just about every religion on the planet has some type of serpent in the beginning. And then if you go back to the oldest religious place that they found on Earth 70,000 years ago it's in Africa. It's called Python Mountain, and people can Google at the audience. And this is where they found this cave that was carved out like a serpent, and then it had a shaman thing where it can go back and kind of speak through the serpent's mouth. So it's almost like it started there. And so I quickly understand that the birth of religion was no mere accident, when it came.
And we see it not just in African traditions. We see it in Central and South American traditions. I'm reminded of Quetzalcoatl, the serpent god. I'm even if you look at a Judeo-Christian perspective, you even see how the serpent in Genesis, and even in when you go to the book of Revelations, now this what used to be a serpent in Genesis is now a dragon figure, which is still serpentine in its nature, So what we look at these is symbolism. And
I know. Look, you see my dragon. There's my dragon.
Indeed. Hey, that's a cold looking dragon too, there, bro.
Hey, man, I just made it when I do my stuff, my alien head, my dragon and stuff. But but anyway, but continue. I'm sorry.
And we do recognize that there is a serpentile nature within the human being. So even though we don't necessarily think that there are reptilian people, in the terms of, how it's portrayed in different stories in that sense and on TV. However, if we look at the damn government and those make up this wicked government, they are, that's the real reptilians. These are people.
Well, we say that already. 80% of the government is. So,
mischievous. Now, in human form. So I don't see it as the scales and things like that, but the very wicked nature that comes up among those type of people. And this is why even in the scriptures, those wicked leaders are described as being serpent-like. Jesus shunned many of the Jewish leaders and the hypocritical leaders and described them in many ways as like serpents, So these are definitely the reptilians we recognize. And these are the people who are causing the problems with humanity. I've never seen the lizard looking kind, but I definitely know some serpentine acting people. And those are the ones who are primarily against the efforts of the Nation of Islam and the efforts of all of those of goodwill.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So what do you know about, and I've been reading a lot of his information. Like I said, I don't subscribe to all the ideology, but Malachi Z. York. Now, of course, if you read a lot of his things or listen to, but I read a lot of his stuff. Now he goes in hard on, of course, the same theory of the black man being here, but then he does depict a lot of things with the reptilian serpent type stuff. And so how does the Nation of Islam intersect with, or do y'all even, is there any parallel to some of the things he talks about versus the Nation of Islam? Because I forget what his tribe is called. I forget the name, but
I remember, and you would probably have to let those who represent Dr. York, tell you, because I was very familiar with them coming up at a long age back before he started referring to himself again as Dr. York and his community as the Nuwabians.
There you go. Yeah.
Prior to that, they would call themselves the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And prior to that, in the early 90s, they called themselves the Ansar Ullah community. And he referred to himself as As-Sayyid Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. And so you would have to let them tell you, the specifics on what they believe. But I do know that
I got a guy that goes really deep into. I would love to have all of us do a kind of a conversation one day. Not no fierce debate, but just
right.
Yeah,
and I think that would be beautiful too. I think
Okay,
that would
well,
be beautiful.
I will put that together and we'll discuss it someday. Because I think that'd be really good to not just separate us these days, but to get a little piece of this, a little piece of that, a
Yeah.
little piece of that, and obviously something is going to come out of it that there could be some conjoining information. I think that's very important. That we
It
can.
is, and what I do know of Dr. York is that his early origins out of New York, was heavily influenced by the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he, like so many others, have taken aspects of what the Nation of Islam had already taught, and then kind of gave it their own spin on
Yeah.
certain things. But you'll notice that the Nation was always there in the beginning, teaching the same thing for now
Yeah.
96 years and
Yeah.
hadn't changed. And as you stated, Brother Roderick, it's funny how nobody brings up the nation when it comes to these type of UFO discussions. And that's why I have to take my hat off to you and your team, because you have the intellectual fortitude as a UFO investigator to actually look, what the hell y'all scared of? Let's bring the brother on and, see what they have to say. And I take my hat off to you and I thank you. And even though it may seem like that's nothing, I mean, that's what journalists and investigators, we do that. But you have to understand that there's a special treatment given to the Nation of Islam, where we are at the brunt of what they call that conspiracy of silence. This is why we've been teaching the same thing for over 95 years with the most outspoken leadership on the world as it relates to these this topic of these wheel-like planes that they call UFOs.
Yeah.
The most outspoken leaders on the planet, in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, who, by the way, has warned the government several times to bring him before Congress and challenge him on what he knows of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in this topic. And with all of that, you'll find that no mainstream media outlets, no mainstream journalists, not even your ufologists for the most part, will even question us the way that you are doing. And you are doing what any intelligent person would do. Just question the brother. You don't have to agree with anything, but there's such a fear of the truth that the Nation of Islam brings as it relates to this topic, that not only will they not invite us to those platforms, but they will put pressure on anybody else who invites us to these platforms. So I hope everything is cool with you after this show.
Oh, no, you know what? No, and I'm sitting here because we do a lot of in-house events. So, in next to this room, we have an event center here, that a room that we do holds about 100 and something people. And, I'm just thinking we might need to just, orchestrate some things, bring you here to Dallas.
Brother, I will come on a dime at your request.
And I got my guy, and I'll just ask him, he's kind of, Brother Joseph, he likes to kind of sit back with his family and watch stuff. But just all of us coming together, and then I'll get my guy from Dr. York's fashion, and just all of us just have a brotherly conversation to have some views and really, patchwork this thing together. Because, and not to say that, oh, this one is right, but I do believe, and I have always believed, that in retrospect of everything, the best trick that they have done, especially our government, is not just divide, but divide information, right?
Man.
And when you divide information,
please say that again, Brother Roderick. Please say that again. That's a bar.
It's not people; they're dividing information, right? And so when they do that, or we're going to use their term, compartmentalize information, right? Then they can control the flow and everything else. But I think the biggest fear is all of this coming together under one faction for just a conversation. And then everybody walk away with like, you know what? That was a little gap over there. That was a little hole there. And now we're going to all probably come back saying in unison, they lied. to come with the government. I mean, I think we all
Say
gonna agree
that.
on that one, right? They
Oh yeah.
lying. They've been lying, But now the question is not what they're doing, because I think people's got to stop focusing on what they're doing and focus on why. And I think there's nothing more
Man.
important than the why, right? And why now? Why all of this stuff? Because everybody's inundated with, oh, they're disclosure. I'm like, the game of disclosure ain't gonna never go away.
Come
They can
on.
have 10 doors. As long as we know what's in three, they're gonna admit it. But the other seven, ain't nobody walking up telling me, oh, y'all didn't know what was behind 4, 6, 7, and 8. Let us tell you. That ain't happening. So yeah, I think we can put something together. All right, so let's go into the Anunnaki from the Nation of Islam, because now there's a faction that I tell people, they go, well, the Anunnaki was black people, and they're coming back, and then when you start hearing the people that are having visions and everything else, I'm like, they're seeing black aliens like this. This is black, not this. But what are your take on people thinking the Anunnaki was black people and they're coming back from Nibiru to be saviors, the same stories that we hear, but outside of what you're teaching of the Elijah Muhammad meeting the creator himself, but why is this story and what do y'all take on that, the Anunnaki story?
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
As I've said it again, and this is a common theme you'll hear me say because there's so much into it. When we say the black man is the original man and the God of the universe, it's not just rhetoric. The black man, especially in our original state, which is not the state that we're currently in, but in our original state, we were gods capable of interstellar travel. Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we had civilizations, millions of years ago, before the white man even became on our planet. We had civilizations more superior to what we are seeing today. And those high civilizations even included flight technology. These high civilizations included interstellar travel. So when we hear about Anunnaki, first of all, we're looking at stories, albeit ancient, coming from, the different Sumerian texts and things like this. But we don't look at ancient stories as being actual historical events. If we can look at hieroglyphics and Metu Neter on the walls in Kemet or Egypt, and we see human bodies with the face of an eagle or crow or something like that written on the walls, that is art. That is story. That is symbolism. And we can't take it just because it's ancient to say that actually happened, that human beings with crow faces and stuff like that actually existed and roamed the earth at that time. So we have to understand that ancient stories, whether they come from Sumeria, whether they come from Africa, whether they come from Greek myths or anything like that, we don't confuse stories with actual historical events. So when we read of these stories, even though these stories may have a lot of direct bearing and relevance to actual events, but when we deal with this Anunnaki, so much of it not only are stories, but we are adopting other folks' interpretations of those ancient stories.
Okay, so I agree with you on that.
Zachariah Sitchin and the Eric Von Donigan and all of these giving their take on ancient aliens and the Sumerian text. Not only are we talking about stories that are not necessarily historical events, but we're getting and adopting the interpretations of these white folks about our stories, about these ancient stories. So these Anunnaki, we don't think are from another place, even though the ancient original man, our people, had flight technology. No, this refers to our people on this earth who had flight technology back then. We had interstellar travel back then, just as these wheels, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, these wheels today can go anywhere in space that they want.
Yeah.
And he said that we had similar planes in these ancient civilizations. when we rule as gods, you know. So we don't look at the Anunnaki, everything literal, but we do understand that the black man is the original man, the God of this universe, the cream of the planet Earth.
He is the Alpha, the Omega. He's omniscient, all knowing, seeing, to believe. I got you. You know, I don't preach, but I got you. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, sound like you preaching now. I was about to shout, man, hearing you, brother.
Hey, I hear you. Now, here's another question. You mentioned Eric Van Daniken, or if that's I'm not. He wrote the book Chariots of the Gods, right? And that was the name, Chariots of the Gods. And what stood out to me is that this book has been on the #1 list back in the day. It was pretty big. But then I started listening, and I'm just throwing this out here, to a song that the black slaves used to sing. Now, this is before Sweet Chariot. Yeah. And it's like they're mentioning this name in chariots, and they're out in the field saying, swing low, come and take us home, whatever that is up there. Now, this is before airplanes was in the sky anyway. And the book then comes out, Chariots of the Gods, using the name. You get what I'm saying? So absolutely. I just listen to that kind of stuff and be like, my Scooby-Doo be like, you know, and just kind of go. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, that's powerful. If you notice, the relevance to and mentioning of these chariots, particularly flying chariots, is mentioned quite frequently, even in the biblical texts.
Yeah,
we find that throughout the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, we see these flying aircraft used by God and his host of angels. Yeah. Sometimes they're referred to as God's heavenly throne, or New Jerusalem, the city of the living God, or the Ezekiel's wheels, or the chariots in the sky, like the flying chariot, fiery chariot on a whirlwind that comes and rescues Elijah in the book of Kings, like the other flying chariots that delivered Elisha from the king's army, also in the book of 2 Kings. So we see about these flying chariots, and what we recognize in the Nation of Islam, even with that verbiage, is that most of what we read in the scriptures, we recognize, so teaches the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that most of these, what we read in the scriptures, are prophecies, not history.
Okay.
If the prophets are called prophets, they're called prophets because they are blessed by God to be able to foresee and prophesy what's going to take place in the future. They're not called historians. So this is why actual historians would have to admit that most of what you read on these Bible stories, there's no verification that it took place. You have stories like the Exodus, and where 2 million some people supposed to have been left Pharaoh and crossed over the Red Sea and all of this, and there's no historical verification for none of this. So the reason why there's no historical verification for a lot of the things we read about in the Bible is because there are stories that are prophecies, symbolism and prophecies as to what will take place. We in the Nation of Islam recognize that these wheels, flying wheel-like crafts that you see, are the fulfillment of prophecy that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like the Elijah of the Bible, is fulfilling. So we don't believe in, just believe in everything we read and that it took place yesterday. There's no proof that what you read about Elijah and this flying chariot ever took place yesterday. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But what we do know and can prove is that these flying wheels are present today, and they are not manipulating, but they are interfering with America and the world's most sophisticated military operations, interfering with their nuclear weapon sites, sometimes shutting down some of their most sophisticated nuclear weapons operations just to show that there's a superior power in the world. This is the power that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan represent, have been telling us about. But the world don't act like they want to listen.
Well, and one of the reasons I will say is there is no way our military, who is considered one of the most feared group on the planet versus the structures, want to go and tell somebody we can't defend y'all.
Right.
They don't want to admit that one. Like, hey, you know what? That
And they
over
never
there,
will. They never will.
yeah. They can't do that. It'll just stir up everything. You met Devin here at the event when he came with the team. I'm gonna add him on the stage. He's sitting over here. He got a question for you. So Devin, go ahead, brother.
Hey,
First
brother.
off, hey, how you doing again?
All right.
It's my honor to speak to you again, brother.
Man.
I grew up in Chicago, so I listen to Louis Farrakhan quite often, and I tell the team all the time that he's been speaking about UFOs forever. So, and the thing is, when we went and saw you a few weeks ago, you kind of blew me away because I think I know a lot about UFOs and a lot of the things that you were saying. I'm the type of person I need proof, I need receipts. And when you were talking about, 1942, you got documentation, you have police reports, you have newspaper articles, you have all of these timelines that match up with exactly what you were saying. And another thing that kind of blew me away was you guys don't even carry, you can't carry a weapon. You don't even have as much as a pocket knife. But
That's right.
every governmental agency, three-letter agency on the planet, let alone the United States, you're on their radar. You're on their radar, and no one will challenge you guys in regards to your knowledge on UAPs, UFOs, mother wheels, and things of that nature. Um, and I did a little research a few days ago, and Louis Farrakhan was speaking in 2018 and 2020, and he said that he was on the mothership, and he said that they told him that they will return and that they're going to show themselves just to prove him right. And then this was on in 2018, and they appeared literally that next day, the next day. And then in 2020, it was like July 5th of 2020. He said this again, and he said that I'm going to prove to you that I'm not lying. I'm telling you, they're going to appear because that's what they told me. Literally, 15, 20 cities throughout the country had video footage of these mother wheels, these motherships all over the planet, July 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So there's some credibility. I have a problem with, you know, a couple things that you said, but there's some credibility there. Whatever you guys are sitting on something.
You can't let the
And
man sit there and say you got a problem. State your case. What are you saying?
well,
The man is right here. We ain't gonna get him off the stage
That's
and be
right.
like, "What you got to say behind his back?" I mean, he
no,
right
no, no,
here.
no. I don't speak behind people's backs.
Well, I mean, my
We
mama
cool.
always told me if you can't say it in front of him, don't say it. Well, I mean,
Oh,
this
that's
is close as
fine.
we could get. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we couldn't do that in that room with all that security. Y'all had more security than the White House. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
We were getting out the car with somebody checking out our air, like you breathing real air. You know what I'm saying? I get on a scale where you weigh enough to come in. All right, this is like
You
boy,
can't outrun us.
boy, everything. All right, but anyway, he right here. Go ahead. Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
It's beautiful.
With you saying that these are human beings from this planet, and I know you haven't spoke on this yet, but you were saying that this craft was made in Japan, with different cities throughout the country.
It was 12 miles. That was on my notes to come up. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. That it was made here on this planet with technology that's so far superior to what we have now. I can't jive that together. I can't understand that. And then when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, you said that it was compartmentalized, where one city did this, one city did that, so no one would know exactly what the other uh, department was doing. And they put it all together and explain that in a little more detail, and also the
Sure.
wheel back during the Old Testament. are those the same beings that built that ship today that you're talking about?
Gee,
I'm a little
this
confused.
look like a book sale to me. You
Yeah.
No, these are, first of all, these are wonderful questions that
all right, your
I think
camera froze again. You might need to come out and go back in. Go ahead and go out and come back in.
Okay, appreciate you.
I'll wait for you on that one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's pretty much that was some of the questions, as far as getting it off the ground, how big it was, and all those things. So I think it's pretty good. He'll be right back, audience. His camera froze, so I just told him to log out and log back in. And as soon as I see him down here, I'll put him back in there. But yeah, great question. Just pretty much. But because you're talking about back then with technology, as far as satellite systems, how could they hide such a thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and pretty much of doing that. So I think that's pretty interesting to kind of see where we're going with that. He's coming back in, y'all. I'll get him back on screen soon as he are able to log in. Here we go. All right, brother, we got you back. So there we go.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
So you finished with you good?
Yeah, the thing that kind of blew me away, which everyone knows, but it just never resonated, was you guys you don't even carry a pocket knife, but every governmental agency on the planet, you're on their radar.
And maybe we don't see. Maybe they're ninjas. They hand-to-hand combat.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
There's something there.
Again, and there's nothing hidden about the power that we say backs us up. Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we stated earlier, have been the most outspoken leaders on the planet as it relates to this topic. And one of the reasons we don't carry carnal weapons of those kinds is because we know we have a power that backs us,
Right.
And it is that power, that God in person that Elijah Muhammad met. That's the God that made him the most powerful black man in America with no weapons. That's the same God in power that allowed him to produce an empire and produce some of the most brilliant minds that Black America and the world has witnessed. It is out of that power and mind of Elijah Muhammad that you got a Malcolm X, that you got a Muhammad Ali, that you got even an Imam Waterthuddin, and even those ancillary groups and movements, the Black Panthers and all of these, Stokely Carmichaels, Kwame Ture, all of these have been influenced heavily by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man whose only claim to fame is that he met God in person, who showed him these wheels and gave him this revelation. That's the same power that backs Minister Farrakhan, and it's no magic, it's real. We've been trying to direct the world to the God that's responsible for those wheels, is the God that backs us, And again, as you stated, big brother, we have and still have every government agency, even a little brother like myself. I'm a freaking school teacher in the public schools. And don't you know they have me on these FBI watch lists? The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, has me profiled several times as being one of, the Nation of Islam's and Farrakhan's helpers who publishes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and all these type of, So for the most powerful government in the world and its cohorts to be frightened over what we say, again, I'm a freaking school teacher. My books, I've been banned from most platforms. YouTube banned one of my main page. I'm shadow banned on all the other platforms. Amazon banned our books and banned one of my books. They temporarily banned my book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam. But I guess they knew something was up, so they put it back, but they left the other ones banned.
Yeah.
What is it? Well,
I think it's that fear of that information.
And I do think,
sure,
Brother Rashad, when you say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad met God, is that God with a small case G or a large case G?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad did what the book of Revelation talks about when it says that at a certain time, the mystery of God would be revealed. He was revealed the mysteries of God, as it is also written in the Holy Quran, where Allah says that he would reveal his secrets to his chosen messenger. So while the world believes in God, the world of religion believes in God, and most believe and assume God to be some inanimate being, some maybe a spiritual entity or being, having no form or anything like that. Actually, that concept is not even aligned with the scriptures of the Bible or Holy Quran. So when Elijah Muhammad said that God is a man and has always been a man, now the actual body or person of God has changed over time, but the mind, spirit, force, and power of God has always dwelled in a man.
Oh, 100%.
Somewhere
100%.
on this earth. So we don't view God as some spooky, formless spirit. His mind, his spirit can be anywhere. His power is everywhere. But that spirit, force, and power is embodied in human form. And it was that form, that person, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, that Elijah Muhammad not only met, but was taught by, who, as the Holy Quran says, was revealed the secrets of God to his chosen messenger. And as the book of Revelation said, that the mysteries of God has been revealed. So the fact that Elijah Muhammad was given this kind of information before the world had any clue about it would cause intelligent people to think and say, hold up, where you get that from, Elijah Muhammad? And who is this mystery man that you met that's actually on government record for telling the government that he is God? So there's so much to this that warrants true and an objective investigation. So if Elijah Muhammad says he met God in person, and Minister Louis Farrakhan, who the world, some consider the most controversial leader in this day and age, says the same thing, that God is a man, that backs him with these wheel-shaped planes, and they show up when he makes public declarations about them, I think that as intelligent people, we should at least question like you're doing. And I believe that if we question more and question enough, you will come to know and become more acquainted with the power that he's been talking about. Now, you had some other questions too about like the God of the Old Testament, and it was something else, not the God of the Old Testament, but the same.
Just for clarification, just yes or no, because I know we have to move on. But what you're saying is the God, lowercase g or large case g, what you're saying is this was a representative or a representative of the universal God or the creator of all. This wasn't God, the creator of all. It was a representative of God. That's what you're saying, Your Honorable.
The supreme being, capital G, God, is not the exact, it's the same spirit, force, and power of the creator. But that spirit, force, and power of the creator has taken on different forms and has always been in the form of a person. And so Elijah Muhammad says, and Minister Farrakhan says, that Allah, God, came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Now, this along with the concept of the wheel is what distinguishes the Nation of Islam from every religious school of thought, even other Muslims, let alone Christians and Jews and others who subscribe to God being some ethereal spirit being. And we believe God is a spirit or has spirit, but that spirit, you would not even know that it exists if it's not contained in some type of material. And that material is a person that Elijah Muhammad met. So yes, wonderful question, brother. and we make no, you know, we don't back away from those kind of questions either. In fact, what you'll find is that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan say about God appearing in person actually is most congruent and most aligned with what we read in the scriptures of the Bible and Holy Quran. Because all throughout your Bible, we see where God, from Genesis to Revelations, is described and makes appearances in human form. In Genesis, in the 18th chapter of Genesis, we see where God approaches Abraham, a man, along with two other men, you know, in the plains of Mamre. It was three men approaching Abraham. One of them was God, the Lord, and the other two were angels who later went to help destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So, yes. And notice how even in the Bible, you have God and he makes these appearances in human forms, and they're different persons. So maybe during the time of Abraham, he may have been known as El Shaddai, but then maybe hundreds of years later, he may be Yahweh or Jehovah this or Jehovah that. And later on, he may be known as Shiloh. And this place, he's known different names because in some cases, they are different persons. Right. Even in the Holy Quran, it says that all things in the 55th chapter or surah of the Holy Quran, it talks about how all things will come and go and everything will pass away, but there will always endure the person of thy Lord. See, there will always be the person of thy Lord. God will always be in some person at some time. The person may change every couple of hundred years or so, but the same spirit, force, power, and mind, but it dwells in person. That is the most shocking thing that the religious world has some contentions with the Nation of Islam. But again, we'll show you how it is most congruent with what you read of the Bible and Holy Quran. And this is why you'll find in the religious world, many theologians, theological scholars seem somewhat reluctant to have these kind of conversations and ask those intelligent questions like you ask, because it'll expose the fact that what we teach is most aligned with the Bible and Holy Quran anyway. So that's another subject for another time, but that's one powerful question you asked, brother.
All right, then. So, and that's Devin over there, ladies and gentlemen. I got a question or a past story. Remember the Heaven's Gate thing where the group that was waiting on the mothership and they all died, you know, or unalive, whatever we want to use for YouTube purposes. Yeah. What are your thoughts? And plus, you know, because again, it's almost they was mimicking the Nation of Islam of the coming, and they all prepare for this ship coming back, and they all left. You ever remember that story? I think it was Heaven Gate.
I remember that. I think I was in high school at the time. What was that? It was in the 90s. Yeah, I remember the Heaven's Gate cult, and I don't think there's anything that mimics the Nation of Islam about that. The only thing is the fact that they believe that there's some aerial craft.
Okay, I'm with you on that. Go ahead.
Same damn aerial craft, and damn sure at the same. Damn sure at the same teaching. But yeah, you'll find where these type of fanatical cults and groups have arisen, and many of them will take portions of something that the Nation of Islam has already taught or proven, but they'll put their own twist and their own spin on things and go in a totally way out in left field somewhere. But yeah, I do remember that.
I know they was all over, and it's like, once again, it was more or less, oh, here's this other crazy UFO cult, and then you have, let me think now, on the religious side, is Scientology, is they not more considered UFO cult back in the day as well?
They may believe in something I mean, again, you don't have to be a genius to believe that there are aerial crafts. Hell, even if they're airplanes or satellites. But you'll notice that the Nation of Islam remains the first and only to give very detailed descriptions of these things. So the Nation of Islam was teaching publicly about these crafts before there was an outcry or a mass concern about them, before the major government reports and investigations. The Nation of Islam was on record telling you exactly what we're telling you now, 96 years later.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Real quick, sir.
Yes, sir.
The second part of my question was, you said
There's a camera up there.
when we were at the mosque, you said that these ships were built on planet Earth in Japan and different places. Because believe me, that's the first time I've ever heard of that, other than, their extraterrestrial vehicles. But explain to the public, because I guarantee they had no clue about this either, what those ships,
Yes.
How they were built, why they were built, and like Ezekiel and when they were taken away in Enoch, were those the same architects but just different timelines? Explain
Beautiful.
that.
Beautiful. What we read in these scriptures, remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we had these similar planes. They weren't the exact same planes that are on scene today. The ones that are on scene today didn't launch until 1929. But he said that our people, before the white man, we had civilizations and we had flight technology and we had planes that were similar, not the exact kind, but we had similar planes before the white man really arose on our planet. So we had technology, but what you read, most of that technology, even that flight technology, has been buried for the past near 6,000 years during the advent of the Caucasian rule. So all that was buried for the most part. That knowledge, that wisdom had been hidden away until the coming of God, So, but what you read in those scriptures in the Old Testament, whether it's Ezekiel and Moses and all the prophets that prophesied about these things, most of that did not happen historically. They are prophetic stories giving us signs of what is happening today. So we don't say that those are the same planes, even though the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the plans and even the blueprints for the planes that are on scene today had been available or been stored for thousands of years, but these planes didn't come into existence or lift from the Earth's atmosphere until 1929. And you mentioned how shocking it was to hear us say that these planes are human built and are from this Earth.
Right.
Different parts of the Earth they were built in, as some would say, compartmentalized, but the major part was assembled in the areas of Japan. And it took like a 20-year process with thousands of workforce. If you consider all the different places on the Earth, all the workers did not know what the ultimate goal would be for these plans. The very few, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, who is at the helm of this, and his host of scientists or angels under him, they were very much aware of the ultimate goal and objective of these plans. But the masses of the workers, they didn't know all of what the final goal would be. They just had their part and were told to do their part, different parts of the world. And even though it sounds shocking that, these planes are from the Earth, it's actually, again, rooted in the scriptures. Even when you read about Ezekiel, it talks about the wheel and these other wheels that follow behind a larger wheel. They were lifted from the earth. That's in the Bible, you see. So if it is shocking we should ask ourselves, who the hell told us that these planes were from outer space in the first damn place?
I was going to get to that. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about that in more detail in a few minutes. Hang on.
And those alien narratives in terms of being the occupants of these planes didn't come really until mostly the 50s. After, this is a couple of decades after the Nation of Islam had already showed and proven what these planes were. So yeah, that is very difficult to grasp, because part of the disinformation campaign is to take the people away from the source of this phenomena and have us thinking that it's some otherworldly phenomena, because white folks, honestly, are the ones that say that it's non-human intelligence and alien technology. Hell, they called us aliens. They called us non-human. They called us 3/5 of a human. So the same boys that are saying that these are non-human intelligence and alien coming from aliens are the same ones that said your and my black behinds are aliens and non-human. So, and even if we look at it scientifically, I've spoken with some scientists behind closed doors because they won't talk to me in public. And they were confirming or agreeing with us that these have to be in some way earthly, based on the metallurgy and other components, the metallurgy and alloys observed from these planes, that are earthly.
Let's talk about that. Give me two minutes I got to do some house cleaning for my sponsors real quick. And then we're going to go into that, because I wrote that on my notes on the source of these UFOs. But we still here, but y'all, basically, just want y'all to know this show and what we're doing is brought to you by our sponsors. So y'all got to know, we have, of course, Make It Song Shea Butter. Y'all already know I use this on a daily with a D. The website is in the description, so y'all make sure y'all go in there and look at Holly's website. All of you, get you some shea butter. Remember, they're all different, from Astrio, vibes that she's created, and smells good too. I'm moist and meaty. I'm edible. For you ladies, I'm edible. Bite me. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's the shea butter. It's the dang on shea butter, and again, I'm not tough meat. Just bite me. But don't make me bleed though. But the other part of that, of course, if you need your mala, congratulations on all of you who have been going over to our sister Julep, charming malas, and getting your different malas and custom made malas and everything else. It's just a blessing. So y'all keep doing that. Remember, their website is in the description of these videos. Real quickly, on his book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam, you gotta go get the book. The website is in our description of the video. It's the Nation's Brothers, right?
Nationbrothers.com.
Yeah,
Nationbrothers.com.
It's in the description here. Make sure y'all go. You got to get a copy of this book. In fact, this book is laid out really good, man. I hate to tell you, but man, I am so impressed just with not just the detail of information that you put in here, and I'm going to go through it thoroughly, but the organization of it. I mean, it's just top notch, and everything. Of course, my autograph that you wrote to me is here as well. But you all got to support this brother in his work and give you a whole different perspective. But it's gonna bridge two worlds, man. And as we are one anyway from the divine source, but it also just brings all that stuff together. And so I'm proud to really promote this book. And so y'all do that. Last but not least, for those of you, if you're here in Dallas tomorrow, we're going to do our poetry night. It's right here on the screen. You got to come out to Dallas. Go to our website. You can do kickback.today. If you want to be part of this and you want to speak your words tomorrow, go there and kind of fill that out. Or go, if you're part of our team, it'll take you over to Enter Truth. Now, I want you all to register for it. If you're in Dallas, you're coming because we're going to have some food, and I need to account for you if you want to, eat with us and everything else. And also, one of our sponsors It's Carolina tequila. All right. And so we have some tequila for y'all. You're gonna just sample it. We are not getting you drunk. Do not come in here with your glass and all that stuff. But and I already got TK. Can I take a bottle? You know what I'm saying? What? She was like, can I take a bottle? So, but anyway, and the thing about it, their branding is all about shape shifting. And so it's really interesting to hear the founder's story from Mexico and their theory of shapeshifters and putting a shapeshifter on their branded bottle. So just kind of take us on that journey. But again, y'all already know how I got hooked on it. They told me it was orange juice a couple of weeks ago, and I'm drinking it. And
Side.
next thing you know, I'm like, what the heck? So anyway, we got a case and stuff there behind us there, and they are one of our sponsors for tomorrow. So spoken word, and those of you who do get a go to register into truth.com or go to our website if you're here in Dallas, and if you just want to support us, and you're not here in Dallas, go to Into Truth and just leave a note that, hey, we can give somebody a free ticket tomorrow or something, but support what we're doing, okay? And it's just $15. Food comes with that, and you're gonna get a sip of tequila, just a sip donation. And this is 40% alcohol proof. Now it's beyond measure for me. I mean, it will take you on the mothership for real. And because I was drinking a wine cooler, and they told me it's for females or something, but they had 1%, and I'm buzzed. Now 40%, it's like whatever. So anyway, brother, so I just want to put our house cleaning out there and letting people know what we're doing tomorrow. That is the brand there, and again, on the screen, y'all can screenshot that. And then we're gonna do next month, August the 1st. We have our reunion. It'll be our first annual reunion of us starting our community. And so we're going to go back to where it started. We're going to have a barbecue, bring the kids. We're all just going to sit out and chill August the 1st on a Saturday. And then August the 8th, Brother Joseph and their crew will be in town for the consciousness, love seminar, workshop, whatever. You're going to find some love. And we're going to find out why conscious people can't find love, and pretty much. And so, looked like his camera broke down. He'll probably get back here in just a second. And then, but outside of that, y'all just hang on. We'll get him back in. He needs to come back in. But yeah, so again, make sure y'all do that and come up here in Dallas for that. And pretty much. So let me get him back on. There he is. And all right, so brother, let's continue, and then we'll get you out of here. I just want to, I got to throw that out there for our sponsors and everything else. I want to take us deeply into this source, because you mentioned the word metagory, and they talked about that, how the Nephilims, let me use that for instance, and supposed to be the hybrid race, violated one of the things. And of course, that was the Watchers supposedly breeding with human women. But one of the things that they were taunted for was teaching us metagory. I mean, how to use metals, make weaponry, and all this stuff. And it was just when you brought that up, it just triggered that in my mind. But so basically, in so many words, or not so many words, in your words, that these ships that we're seeing, so we're not saying that they are multinational corporations, that are testing their technology. So are we talking about interdimensional, or are we talking about humans that are coming back from the future, but that is us? Or is that a different timeline? Or just something that we're seeing that we just didn't recognize that existed in this universe that we have already? So let's go exactly, what are we seeing, and by your accounts, where the hell are they coming from?
As we stated earlier, the origins are from this earth.
Okay.
And
now, inner earth, can we go inner earth, dimensional, or just at an airport down there in Dallas? You get what I'm saying? It's like, where?
Not the conventional, means or processes that we may be accustomed to. Even the humans involved in the operations of these planes, they are not like us. They are not as corrupt. They're not corrupted under this world's paradigm like we have been. So we really don't know human potential. And since we don't know the real human potential, which is to be God, then we would often associate this high technology to something other than human, because the only humans that we know are the humans that we see corrupting the world. But there has always been a secretive divine group that has kept this wisdom and technology up until the right time. And so the origins of it is not interdimensional, not, some timelines of coming from the future or anything like that. These are just real world aircraft by real world people, real world angels, real world scientists. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described these planes as a masterpiece of mechanics. So it is science-based, but it just so happens to be a science that is unknown to the scientists of this world, you see? So, and that's how God has operated, at least in the last 6,000 years anyway. That's why it says that at a certain time, the mysteries of God would be made known. So we are living in that time when the reality of God is being made known, and it is evidenced by the reality of these planes that he had already prophesied would be in the world as evidence of his presence. This is what the Nation of Islam has been trying to tell the world.
All right. So with that being said, and real quickly, Chris, I got your email. I just responded to it. Those in the chat that are asking for the website, entertruth.com is working. So just put enter, ENTER, which is truth.com. And you can go if you're planning on supporting our poetry or donating a ticket to someone. We can get about 10 of y'all to do that. That'll be so cool that we can reach out to people tomorrow to do it. And it's just $15. And as y'all know what we do here. So go to entertruth.com and purchase one of those. And then we will then, and put your phone number on there too. Because when you put your ticket in, I would love to thank you personally for supporting the people who would like to come out and hear some spoken word. So it is there on the website, y'all. So let's go back real quickly, like I said, because again, you got, and I'm speaking from my perspective as being this UFO investigator. So everything I've been knowing that, we got it's coming from galactic here. And then of course we get to the conversation of Galactic Federation watching over Earth and all of these other things. Right. And the fact that, like you were just saying, these crafts are from here, and the fact that who is occupying them. And of course you're saying, humans, at this point. And are these humans in your doctrine, are they black people driving these ships, or would it be interdimensional beings?
Thank you. Excellent question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that they are black people. However, when the Nation of Islam, when we say black, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, black refers to original people, which includes the black, brown, red, and yellow races, if you will. So black doesn't necessarily mean just African black.
Not light-skinned brother. That's not red. He's over there pointing we're not talking about light-skinned brother over there. He's trying to get into the game some kind of way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, brother. So that's all of our people. That comprises the original people of the human family, the dark black people, brown, red, and yellow. So that includes our Asian. There's some of Asian,
and they call them the yellow
features.
people. Matter of fact, that's what that book, the prophecy, said, that they were yellow. And when they talk about the original people,
even in this part of the world, Central and South America, of course, Africa, but the original people. And some of those original people, Elijah Muhammad said that they are black people, but again, black and is comprised of black, brown, red, and yellow, but not the white. Even though some of them have white-looking appearances. Even though some of them do have white-looking appearances, as did Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Here's a man teaching who the black man is. The black man is the original man, who's a black man himself, but his appearance looks whitish, has Caucasian features. And even that was on purpose. But yes.
All right. Do you have time of like a few minutes to do some Q&A? I'm gonna give the audience an opportunity to ask some questions and put it on the screen and have you to answer them if you like. You got time for that?
For you and your audience, I would be honored, sir.
Okay. So you all know the drill. If you got questions, put the word question in front of your question. And we're not doing that thing that we learned when I was young, conjunction, junction. So don't give me an and, this, and do a question with a period at the end. You know, no buts and ands and all of that. And if those of you who want your question highlighted beyond everyone else, do it as a super chat because it'll light up, whether it's 99 cents to whatever, we will prioritize those questions. And so y'all have at it. I know there's a few seconds delay, but again, I want the word question so that me and the team can see it and be respectful and just whatever y'all doing. Y'all have always been that way anyway, our audience is. So that's not a disclaimer needed. But anyway, I will look here in just a second. We'll give Brother Rashad an opportunity to speak to you all directly. And while y'all doing that, and for those of you right now, I want to give you a personal shout out. If you go to, thenationsbrother.com and order his book and you let us know that you order it, then we will definitely give you a personal shout out right now. He can do that as well. So if y'all can do that while we're on air and just let us know that you did. But in the meantime, we're going to look for questions. I know there's a delay, and so I'll wait here a few seconds, and then we will do that. But in the meantime, while we wait for the questions to pop up, brother, I appreciate you being here, man. And like I said, I'm looking at maybe September. That'll give me enough time to put it together, a little small event, and get you down here and get some more. And we'll do that roundtable discussion and some stuff. And I think it'll be a wonderful day, to do that.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that. And if I haven't said it, or if I don't get a chance to say it before we leave, brother, it is a tremendous honor. I mean, I'm thoroughly honored just for the invitation. I was honored to have met you.
Same here, brother.
Some of your staff. And I'm certain this won't be the last. I believe this
is the beginning of all of us getting on the same damn ship one day, regardless. Right? No matter where we're coming from, but we getting on that same damn ship. How about that?
And what you said about bringing these different minds and teachings together, as beautiful as that is, keep in mind that from the outsider's perspective, that's considered dangerous, brother.
I know.
For you, I mean, it's considered dangerous because you and I know that the government has always had objectives against our unity, and even just the unity of dialogue. We don't have to be uniform in our beliefs or anything like that, but just the concept of our unity and willingness to sit down together, as beautiful as we know it is, the enemy looks at that as a threat. And so for you already having a footing in this space of ufology and UFO investigations and things like that, I would caution you to also be careful, because your good heart and your good intentions, is not going to be perceived by others the same way.
Hey, man, I appreciate the words. I appreciate even from the vantage point that you all have at the nation of already, knowing all of this, right? And So it's not going on stale ears. In fact, we'll talk about that in private too, a little more. So we got some questions coming in. There's a few people that got a question. You did not put the word question, so I'm assuming it wasn't a question. You're talking to other people in the chat. But for all the
Well,
ones who did, but all the ones who did, we're gonna start with the queue, and that'll be the last of the ones that don't have the word question. What is the origin of the moon? They want to know, what are your thoughts on the moon?
Yes, as we stated earlier on the show, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was revealed. It was revealed to him by Master Farrakhan Muhammad, some of the things like the origin of the moon. And in the early 30s, he was taught that the moon, billions, really trillions of years ago, was once part of the earth. They were the same, but due to a cataclysmic explosion, and even that explosion was started from this earth, due to a cataclysmic explosion, that explosion killed most of the earth's population, but it blew that portion of the earth into the orbit, and it formed into the orbit that it is, causing the moon. That took place, he said, trillions of years ago. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the nation was taught that the origin of the moon is actually from this earth. It wasn't until the late 1970s that NASA scientists and astrophysicists and astronomers actually confirmed what the Nation of Islam had been teaching since the 30s. This is something that Master Farrakhan Muhammad revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As the Holy Quran says, Allah would reveal his secrets to his chosen messenger. And even though it sounded crazy as hell at first, again, it's in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s even, it sounded crazy as hell when we were saying that the moon was once a part of the earth. But now I don't think you'll find an astronomer or astrophysicist that doesn't subscribe to some notion that the moon's origin is from the earth. And they also subscribe to the fact that the what propelled the moon to form the way that it did was due to a cataclysmic explosion. So what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the early Nation of Islam taught regarding something like that, the moon, it's been confirmed by the scientists, but you'll never hear them say, what, Elijah Muhammad and the early Nation of Islam said this in the 1930s, because that would be too much like right.
All right. So we got another question, which you have already kind of answered, but I want to respect the young Joe Madison that's asking a question. He says, was Elijah Muhammad the first one to talk about UFOs?
Thank you. Well, for centuries, for millennia, for millions of years, I'm certain there have always been things in the sky, in the atmosphere, that could be considered unknown to somebody. Hell, even if it's a garbage bag that blew in the sky and got caught up in the air, if somebody saw it, technically that's a UFO. So we don't call it UFOs because these planes that we're talking about are not unknown to us. In fact, Elijah Muhammad gave the answers about these planes before the world even had questions about them. So he's the first to tell you, and the nation is the first to tell the modern world about these disc-shaped, wheel-shaped planes that do make up the bulk of the UFO phenomena. And that's on record. You won't find anybody before the Nation of Islam telling you specifically what these planes are, where they were made, what they're made from, how they were made, who pilots them. In fact, to this very day, the Nation of Islam remains the only ones to give definitive details and answers about these planes. That's why they call them UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, or unidentified anomalous phenomena. They were never unidentified for us. Hell, the nation was the ones who identified them for you.
Right. Hey, I go with that. And if you're here for the first time and you have not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button. Post your comments afterwards, because and let that algorithm know that you like this kind of stuff. And if you like more conversations like this, let us know. We have another question here, and it says, the stone in Mecca in the sacred box, where did it come from? I heard Muhammad acquired it from nobody knows. What it actually acquired from Babylon, what it came from Babylon. That was one of them bunch of questions, but I like the question. So.
Yeah, I think I know what he's talking about. I think he's referring to what is considered like the black stone that is in the corner of the Kaaba. The Kaaba being the sacred house that is built like a box, a square, in Mecca. That's where Muslims make their pilgrimage. They make circuits around the Kaaba. And in the Kaaba, there is a black stone. I believe it's in the northwest corner, if I'm not mistaken. And there are some different stories as to where the stone came from. Some say it came from heaven as an asteroid. Some say it came from this. But it was not Muhammad, peace be upon him, not Prophet Muhammad, who is the origin of the stone, because the Kaaba and the stone was in existence centuries before Muhammad, you know. But so we can't say exactly where it came from, but we just know that there's a black brownish stone that is in the Kaaba, which is a holy house in the world of Islam, and the black stone is considered holy. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that that black stone is just a symbol of the black man who was in the northwest hemisphere here in America. So the stone is somewhat symbolic of him and the movement that he represents, because there's prophecy from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where he talked about how the sun of Islam, the light of Islam, would rise in the West in the latter days. Well, we know that the prophets and the light of truth in Islam has often come from the East and what they call the Middle East and whatnot. But the prophet stated that in the last days, the light would come from the West. So what we have in the Nation of Islam that shocks the world represents part of that light. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and black people here in America really represent that black stone in the northwestern hemisphere that is, in that sense, from heaven above.
All right, now. So the question is, have you had your own personal encounter, or do you desire to have such one?
By encounter, I've had sightings, you know. I've, on quite a few occasions over the years anyway, I've seen some of these wheels. I haven't seen the great mother plane, the big one. Well, the smaller ones that are seen pretty much every day by different people around the world, we call those baby planes in the nation, or the smaller wheels. I've seen those before, but I've not been taken up or anything like that. But you could say that I've had an encounter, because I know, and I, in many cases, try to represent the man who is the representative of that power, which is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the same man that has made these bold claims about these wheels, and they show up right afterward, and have been doing that since the 80s. Yeah, I've had my encounters with him. But even more importantly, we deal with Elijah Muhammad, who respectfully had the closest encounter of any kind, because he was shown this thing directly from the God that's responsible for them.
All right. So another question is, who are the black aliens who landed at the children's school in Africa? Dr. Wesley Muhammad said that they tried to whitewash the incident to cover up the fact that the children described them as black.
Thank you. Thank you. I think she's referring to the UFO sighting by the school children in, I believe it was Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
1994, if I'm not mistaken. And we talk about it in our book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam as well. And I thank my brother, Dr. Wesley, one of my brilliant brother, friend, and colleague, who's done tremendous work on this as well. And he's published writings and presented material on this the aerial school encounter. And it's true that incident, like so many others, where the initial reports talk about black people, black people, and I think they said black people with long hair and things like that. Then after being briefed or whatnot, then the story starts to change from the initial reports. Now it starts turning into something a little more alien like. That's the case of not only that one, but there are several authentic encounters or sightings where before the story reached the mass public, it's kind of whitewashed and whatnot. I'm reminded of the former president of the Buddhist Republic of Kalmykia, a man named President Kirsan Ilyumzanov, who in 1997 was abducted by one of these planes. And he talked about the people, on the plane, that they were in a certain type of suit, and he described them as people. And they were able to read his mind and communicate to him telepathically. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad already talked about this now.
Yeah.
He talked about the capabilities of the scientists on those wheels, how he called it radio in the head or tuning in. They can do things. They can communicate telepathically. They can do things and operate things telekinetically, and this is, you'll find in some of those encounters. But needless to say, President Kirsan Ilyumzanov, his encounter, before it reached the Western press, it was whitewashed, and they would say that he said it was aliens. He didn't say that. He said they were people. Same thing with the aerial school in Zimbabwe. And that's part of the disinformation campaign. They cannot let you know that Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have been right.
All right. Someone else, I kind of understand the question, but they're saying the breakdown of Allah is arm, leg, arm, head. Aliens have all of these attributes. So would you consider them as Allah as well? Is what they're saying. I don't know.
I think, there's this thing.
Star form. 2 arms, 2 legs.
Okay.
Yeah, there's this
I'm sorry, they was talking.
Yeah, there's like this cute thing that I've heard people say where they take the name Allah in English and say that it represents arm, leg, arm, head. That's cute. But whereas we do believe that God is a man, but he is the Lord, as the Holy Quran says. Allah is, in Arabic, Rabbil Alameen. He is the Lord of all the worlds. So whereas we do believe there's life and life forms on other planets, Allah is the Lord of all of those worlds,
Okay. All right, brother. It is the top of the hour, and I know we went over, but I appreciate your patience. And so is there anything, first of all, where can people find you? We already got your website in the description, but where can they find you, get more of your knowledge, and how often you do it?
Wonderful. Well, perhaps the easiest way to access us is directly on our website, which is nationbrothers.com. I think you mentioned that, nationbrothers.com. And I am on social media, even though I've been banned and shadow banned from some of these platforms. Most of the platforms I'm still shadow banned on, but you can find us on as Ilia Rashad on whether it's Instagram or Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and even our YouTube pages. And we do have a Nation Brothers Instagram page and Facebook page, even though they've been shadow banned, but we do have those. So you can find us at either Ilia Rashad or Nation Brothers. But definitely,
so tell me a little bit about Nation Brothers as association with the Nation of Islam. So is that one of the same, or that just kind of your domain?
Yeah, that's just a name that we use for our website, considering that I and we are brothers coming from the Nation of Islam. So we just say Nation Brothers. And I kind of got that from some of the terminology that brothers out on the street would sometimes use to refer to us.
Yeah,
oh, okay, those are Nation Brothers right there, you know. Yeah. Like, hey, just go with that, you know. So, but I and we are definitely supporters of and believers in the Nation of Islam. I would not be who I am or where I am were it not for the Nation of Islam.
Well, brother, it was a pleasure, you know, not just meeting you then, but talking to you now. You had a question or something?
No, I just want to say from the Truth versus Authority team, give the Honorable Louis Farrakhan our condolences and our blessings and our prayers for the death of his wife.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you so much. One, for you all, your questions, and for you all, your spirit, you know, the spirit of brotherhood, the spirit of learning, the spirit of investigating. I'll leave with this. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that one learned man is harder on the devil than 1,000 ignorant worshipers. One learned man is harder on the devil than 1,000 ignorant worshipers. What I see in you all and your team are those who are learned men and women. And because you have the mind to learn and investigate and analyze and weigh different sources, because of that, you are harder on the devil than 1,000 of those who just say what they believe and whatnot. And it's because of that same spirit that you not only are hard against the devil or the evil people, but you're also a helper to the work that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and those of us in the Nation of Islam want for our people. So I thank you, and I'm honored tremendously, dear brothers.
Hey, I appreciate it, brother. And like I said, we will talk with you. I'll give you a call, and because I'll say goodbye to the show here to the peeps. But I'll give you a call over the weekend. Maybe I'll call you in a little while too, just to touch up after the show. But anyway, I appreciate you. And then, like I said, we're gonna schedule. We're gonna get you down here live in Dallas. We'll get some of the other people together. And I think it'll be a great conversation for all of us to have, and then people can get your autograph, copy of your book and things like that as well. So,
sure.
All right.
Sounds good to me, bro.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Indeed.
All right. So basically, that was a great conversation, everyone. I mean, a great conversation. The brother is off the charts. I really enjoy not just talking with him on and offline, but just developing the relationship for eternity of where we're heading. And you meet good people, and from wherever everybody's from, our destinations is still heading in the same direction. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So y'all be prepared to, like I said, to get him in Dallas. We'll get him down here personally, as well as getting a couple other people together where we can have that group conversation of unity, and instead of the word UFO, we'll have our own term for unity, something, whatever. But regardless to that, hopefully if you are going to be in Dallas tomorrow, come on and give your spoken word. And like I said, the website is working, entertruth.com. If you want to just support what we do, it's just a $15 thing there. But then come out, get you some tequila and get you some finger food and hear a little poetry. We're just revving it up. So it's going to be our first stab at it. And we can do that. Again, you got our sponsors. You make its own. You have our, for your shea butter, the crystals. And again, get his book. You got to get his book, okay? It is a really well-written book. And, of course, my personal book as well. I'm sending out some more autographed copies. I got about another 10 in. If you go to roderickmartin.com today, I would love for y'all support so you can go and get a copy of the book. And that way I can sign the rest of them. I got 2 orders I got to send out this weekend. And I would love to include you in it. So that is roderickmartin.com. And then I can get you a personal signed autograph of my book as well. And if I can, get 4 or 5 of y'all today to buy it, and get it, it would be a blessing, just to know that the support is there. So anyway, love you. Love each and every one of you. Enjoy your weekend so that we can have some great things and pretty much. Hey, I'm about to call you back. I'm still live. I'll call you back. So yeah. Okay, I'll call you back. I'm still live. So, but the main thing is just us having the greatness of what we're doing. And again, thank the team and everyone. But tomorrow, tequila, baby, for those of you who want some tequila, make sure you come out and do that. So anyway, much love. Take care. And I'll see you all on Monday. We're going to get started. And we got a lot more interviews like this set up. So let me know how y'all enjoy everything. And we will go from there. So let's do the thing. And hats off to Brother Rashad and the Nation of Islam for calling it out. And they should have been included. But we're going to make sure the word get out that they are the ones who started this. Way back when, it's the rap song. Way back when, if there's a song, we'll make sure we do it. So anyway, much love to y'all. Let's do this thing. Later.
UFOs.
UAPs.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Who are they? Where are they from? And what is their intent?
All questions that immediately come to mind with the mention of UFOs. A Pentagon report is detailing a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, more than 350 since 2021. Many of them are explained as being drones, birds, or weather events, but about half of them remain unexplained.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
This video taken by the Navy showing what he describes as pyramid-shaped UFOs flying over the USS Russell off the San Diego coast in July of 2019. The Pentagon has since confirmed that the video is authentic.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucers. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil is the man who discovered the saucer.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
More people are coming forward with their own sightings.
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs.
Right at that moment, I saw what looked like 5 lights flying in formation in kind of an inverted check mark.
The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin. We don't know what these UAP are.
The mysterious flying objects are still a mystery. NASA will continue investigating them and has appointed a director of UAP research.
Technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Look at the fly!